A few days ago, the world's first clinical case was diagnosed with climate change. It happened in Canada. Though the issue caught eyes around the world, the developing world has been facing the brunt of climate change for a very long time now. Low-lying countries like Bangladesh and Maldives have already flagged the adverse reactions of climate change. Rapid wildfires have ravaged Australia in 2020, and the underlying threats of a global catastrophe are looming large in the world. One of the greatest issues with climate change is that it is not imminent as the pandemic. It acts like a slow poison and takes hundreds of years to manifest itself. Having said that, the focus of the world through these conferences is to make legally binding commitments that would reduce the impact of climate change around the world. As the world sees it, an increase in average temperature of 2 degrees can have a devastating impact and can cause irreversible changes in the climate. With all the modern science and technology available at our disposal, it should have been a relatively doable task. The video discusses why there is general lack of commitment among world leaders and a general sense of disregard for the issue. Be Curious welcomes you to the world of utmost curiosity. From the latest around the world to historical facts, we question everything. If you like our content, please spread the word, or please share a small donation on Patreon. It goes a long way. Every climate change conference infuriates and brings three major issues to the forefront. Sadly, none of them have nothing to do with the deteriorating state of climate in the world. They can be classified as the rich and the poor divide in the world, the developed countries' constant bullying against developing countries like India and China, and the general failure of the world to bring a conclusive consensus. Before we deep dive, we must understand that this COP or Conference of Parties, as we know them, are taken up by signatories of UNFCCC. Currently, there are 196 member countries from panel, and their job is to sit through and create a consensus by which we leave a survivable world to the next generations and millions of species who call this earth as their homes. For a better understanding, we also have to understand a little bit of history. The COP was constituted in Rio de Janeiro Summit in 1992, and post that they have 25 conferences till date. This year's conference was held in Glasgow, Scotland, and their main aim was to debate and create a consensus for the following three things. For nations with target till 2030, they should provide new targets and provide new vision for 2050. All nations were asked to formulate long-term strategies to be carbon neutral by 2050. Developed nations should pledge their $100 billion for developing countries to combat climate change and reduce the usage of fossil fuel and eliminate coal power by 2030. With these broad objectives in mind, the world leaders accumulated in Glasgow. A few came up with their open hands, a few came with a vision, and few countries like China and Turkey did not turn up for the event. After 2 hard-fought weeks of negotiations, the Glasgow Climate Summit is finally over. All 197 participating countries adopted the so-called Glasgow Climate Pact, despite an 11th-hour intervention by India, in which the final agreement was watered down from phasing out to phasing down. In an emotional speech, COP26 President Alok Sharma apologized for his last-minute change. His apology goes to the heart of the goals of COP26 in Glasgow. The hope it would deliver outcomes matching the urgent code red action needed to achieve the Paris Agreement target. At the summit's outset, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged countries to keep the goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius alive to accelerate the decarbonization of global economy and phase out coal. Two big ticket items weren't realized: union targets for 2030 that align with limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and an agreement on accelerating the phase out of coal. The goal of Paris Agreement was to limit global temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius in this century and to pursue efforts to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Catastrophic impacts will be unleashed beyond this point, such as sea level rise and more intense and frequent natural disasters. But new projections for climate action trackers show even if all COP26 pledges are met, the planet is on track to warm by 2.1 degrees Celsius or 2.4 degrees Celsius if only 2030 targets are met. Technically, the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit is still within reach because under Glasgow Pact, countries are asked to update their 2030 targets in a year's time. However, Sharma said the pulse of 1.5 degree is very weak. India's intervention to change the final word to phase down coal rather than phase on dampens the urgency of shift from coal. India is the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases after China and United States. The country relies heavily on coal, and coal power station is expected to grow 4.6% every year till 2024. India was the most prominent objector to phase out wording, but also had support from China. The US climate envoy, John Kerry, argued that carbon capture and storage technology could be developed further to trap emissions at the source and store them underground. Carbon capture and storage is a controversial proposition for climate action. It is not proven at scale, and we don't know if the captured emissions stored underground will eventually return to the atmosphere. In a crucial outcome though, COP26 finalized rules for global carbon trading, known as Article 6 under the Paris Agreement. However, under these rules, the fossil fuel industry will be allowed to offset its carbon emissions and carry on polluting. Combined with the phasing down change, this will see fossil fuels emissions to continue to rise. The COP again brought down the divide between the rich and the poor countries. Though China and India remain to be the top polluters in terms of total emissions, their relative emission per capita is approximately 1,000 times lesser than the developed countries. The developed countries rampantly use fossil fuel to coal-fired plants and carried mass deforestation to fuel their industrial growth. On the contrary, developed countries have huge liability to provide sources of energy for pulling their masses out of poverty. The developed countries, on the contrary, neither share their experience or technology to bring these positive changes and clad them with iron fists through intellectual property rights. The developed countries have fallen majorly short in their commitments to cough up $100 billion for the developing world to combat climate change. The representations also fail short when they raise sermons and passing on the liability solely towards India and China, where they manufacture their most of the goods to be used by their citizens in their country to lead a very lavish lifestyle. In this fight of developed economies and energy guzzlers like India and China, the relatively poor and highly susceptible countries like Bangladesh pay the ultimate price. And UN reports suggest that climate change is already one of the major reasons of forced displacement. However, there are many silver linings and great takeaways from the summit. Not everything is doom, and the present countries with an opportunity to nations to tackle issues with a strong resolve. Despite the shortcomings, COP26 led to a number of important positive outcomes. The world has taken an unambiguous turn away from fossil fuel as a source of energy. And the 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming target has taken center stage, with recognition that reaching this target will require rapid, deep, and sustained emissions reductions of 45% by 2030 relative to 2010 levels. What's more, the pact emphasizes the importance to mitigation of nature and ecosystems, including protecting forests and biodiversity. The pact also urges countries to fully deliver on an outstanding promise to deliver 100 billion per year for 5 years to developing countries vulnerable to climate change. It also emphasizes the importance of transparency in implementing the pledges. Nations are also invited to revisit and strengthen the 2030 targets necessary to align the Paris Agreement temperature goal by the end of 2022. In support of this, it was agreed to hold a high-level ministerial roundtable meeting each year focused on raising ambitions out to 2030. The US and China climate agreement is also a cause of cautious optimism. Despite the world not being on track for 1.5 degree goal, momentum is headed in the right direction. And the mere fact that a reduction in coal use was directly addressed in the final text signals that change may be possible. But whether it comes in a small window we have left to stop catastrophic climate change and remains to be seen. Till the time we act in this small window, this summit will remain to be world leaders enjoying the world stage at taxpayers' money, while the entire world gasps for its breath along with millions of species of Mother Nature.